She took care of her rich sister's children for 30 years without pay, but the party video left everyone shocked. In the quaint town of Willow Creek, nestled amidst rolling hills and vibrant wildflowers, Lydia stood in the cozy kitchen of her sister's expansive home. The sun streamed through the large windows, casting a warm glow on the pots and pans that lined the countertops. She was making the final touches for Lucas's 30th birthday party, a milestone occasion that promised to be grand and extravagant, just like everything else in Vanessa's life. As she stirred the colorful batter for the cake, a lump formed in her throat. The aroma of vanilla and sugar filled the air, but the sweetness of the moment was bittersweet for Lydia. 30 years, she whispered to herself, recalling how she had devoted her life to raising Lucas and his younger sister, Sophia, while their mother chased her dreams of success in the cutthroat world of real estate. Lydia had sacrificed her personal ambitions and desires, pouring her heart and soul into nurturing the children. Yet she often felt like a ghost in the backdrop of Vanessa's glamorous life. Just then, the front door swung open, and Vanessa swept into the kitchen, radiating energy and excitement. She was dressed impeccably, her designer outfit accentuating her polished appearance. "Lydia, you've outdone yourself," she exclaimed, her voice ringing with enthusiasm. "The decorations look fantastic, but we need more balloons. Balloons are essential for a birthday party." Lydia forced a smile, her heart sinking a little further. "I thought we had enough, Vanessa. The kids would love the cake and the games dash." "Oh, don't be silly." Vanessa cut her off, her eyes sparkling. "This is a celebration. We need it to be unforgettable. I've arranged for a magician, and the caterer is bringing in those fancy hors d'oeuvres you love." As Lydia watched her sister flit around the kitchen, making plans, she felt a familiar ache in her chest. "I just want the kids to enjoy themselves," she replied quietly, trying to keep her voice steady. "They're the ones celebrating today." "Of course, and they will. But remember, it's also about making an impression on the guests," Vanessa replied, her attention already shifting to her phone as she began scrolling through messages. Lydia sighed softly, her heart heavy with the weight of years spent in Vanessa's shadow, always the caregiver, never the celebrated. While Lydia arranged the flowers in a vase, she stole glances at Vanessa, who was now on a conference call, her voice rising above the clatter of pots and pans. "Yes, I need that report on my desk by noon tomorrow. And make sure the projections are accurate. There's no room for error." The commanding tone was a stark contrast to the nurturing role Lydia had played for so long in the lives of Lucas and Sophia. Lydia felt the sting of tears as she recalled the countless times she had comforted the children after they scraped their knees or had bad dreams. She had been the one to sing lullabies and cheer them on at soccer matches. Yet here she was unnoticed and undervalued in her own family. The thought of her sister being so consumed by her career made her feel invisible. "Lydia, could you grab the balloons from the garage?" Vanessa's voice broke through her reverie. "I need to make sure they're ready before the guests arrive." "Sure, I'll get them," Lydia replied, her voice barely above a whisper. She walked to the garage, her mind swirling with emotions. The garage was a treasure trove of memories, old toys, forgotten tricycles, and the remnants of her own life that had been put on hold for so long. As she rummaged through the boxes, she couldn't help but feel a pang of resentment. She had given up so much for her sister's success, and yet, in the eyes of everyone, she was still just the aunt the caretaker. With the balloons in hand, Lydia returned to the kitchen, where Vanessa was now putting the finishing touches on a lavish appetizer platter. "Oh, Lydia, perfect timing. Just tie those to the banister over there," she instructed, pointing dismissively. "Okay," Lydia replied, feeling small as she tied the balloons in bright colors, their cheerfulness contrasting with her inner turmoil. She longed for a moment of acknowledgement, a word of thanks or appreciation, but that seemed to be a distant dream. As she worked, she watched Vanessa flit about the room, her laughter mingling with the sounds of clinking glasses and animated conversations from the guests arriving early. "Lydia, come here. You have to see this." Vanessa suddenly called. Lydia's heart raced at the thought that perhaps this was the moment she had been waiting for. She hurried over to where Vanessa was standing, her phone in hand, pointing at a social media post featuring a glamorous birthday party at a luxury venue. "Look at this. Isn't it amazing?" Vanessa gushed, her eyes shining with excitement. "I wish I could do something like this for Lucas. But this is just as good, right? It'll be memorable in its own way." Lydia forced a smile again, feeling a deep ache settle in her heart. "Yeah, it's gonna be great," she replied, her voice tinged with sadness. The truth was, Lydia had always envisioned a simple, heartfelt celebration surrounded by family. But Vanessa's version of great felt like a spectacle. As the party began to swell in attendance, Lydia found herself retreating to the kitchen, where she could quietly observe the revelry from a distance. She watched as Vanessa circulated among the guests, her laughter echoing through the room, illuminating the space with her magnetic presence. Lydia felt like a shadow lurking in the corners, her heart heavy with the realization that no one truly saw her the sacrifices she made, the love she poured into the children, the years lost in the pursuit of someone else's dream. "Lydia, come join us." A voice called from the other room, but Lydia hesitated, her feet glued to the floor. She wanted to be part of the celebration, to feel included. But it seemed as if every interaction was a reminder of her role as a helped, reliable aunt who would always be there, but never truly part of the family dynamic. She glanced back at the living room, where Lucas and Sophia were laughing and chatting with their friends. A pang of longing surged within her. "I raised them," she thought. "I've been their mother in every way that mattered." Yet, in this moment, it felt as if the love she had given was overshadowed by the glitz of the occasion and the charisma of their mother. Taking a deep breath, Lydia gathered her thoughts as she prepared to step back out into the bustling crowd. She hoped that perhaps, just perhaps, today would be different, that Lucas and Sophia might recognize her importance in their lives amidst the chaos of the party. But as she stepped into the bright light of the party, she felt the familiar weight of invisibility settle over her again. Lydia stood in the bustling living room, her heart heavy as she watched the vibrant decorations sway gently from the ceiling. The colorful streamers danced in the warm evening air, their cheerful hues contrasting starkly with the melancholy that filled her chest. She was surrounded by laughter and chatter, her hands busy arranging the final touches of the birthday celebration for Lucas, her sister Vanessa's son. Yet, amidst the festivities, Lydia felt like a ghost, an invisible presence drifting in the shadows of her sister's successful life. "Lydia, can you come over here for a second?" Vanessa's voice rang out, cutting through the din of the party. Her sister was a whirlwind of energy, wearing a dazzling smile that seemed to capture the attention of everyone around her. She was dressed impeccably as usual, in a chic ensemble that screamed sophistication and wealth. Lydia smiled faintly but didn't move. She had learned over the years that her presence was often taken for granted, especially by Vanessa. "Lydia, seriously, I need your help," Vanessa called again, impatience creeping into her voice. Reluctantly, Lydia made her way through the throng of guests, her heart pounding with a mix of anxiety and resignation. "What is it?" she asked, trying to infuse her tone with the enthusiasm she wished she felt. Vanessa waved her hand dismissively. "Can you help me with the centerpiece? It just doesn't look right," she said, pointing to a lavish arrangement of flowers that was far too extravagant for Lydia's taste. "I thought you'd have a better eye for this." Lydia nodded, forcing a smile as she adjusted the flowers, trying to keep her composure. "It looks lovely, Vanessa. I think it just needs to be a bit more balanced," she suggested, carefully shifting a few blooms to create a more harmonious arrangement. "Ugh, you're right. Why didn't I think of that?" Vanessa exclaimed, her voice brightening. "You always have the best ideas. Just wait until everyone sees how stunning this party is. I have a few surprises planned that will blow their minds." As her sister's excitement bubbled over, Lydia felt her heart sink further. It was always about the extravagance, the show. Vanessa had never truly seen the sacrifices Lydia had made over the years. The countless days spent caring for Lucas and Sophia, nurturing them through childhood while Vanessa chased her ambitions. While the world marveled at Vanessa's success, Lydia remained a silent supporter, a mere caretaker in the background. Lydia stepped back, watching as Vanessa flitted from one group of guests to another, her laughter ringing out like music. A knot formed in Lydia's stomach as she observed how effortlessly Vanessa commanded attention, how everyone hung on her every word. Meanwhile, Lydia felt like an outsider in her own family, a mere bystander to the life she had helped build. "Hey, Aunt Lydia," Lucas called, his voice bright and cheerful as he bounded over to her, his enthusiasm infectious. "Can you help me with my new video game later? I need someone to beat the final boss." His eagerness warmed Lydia's heart, but it was tinged with a bittersweet edge. "Of course, Lucas. I'd love to," she replied, her voice softening as she ruffled his hair. "But I might need a little help myself. I'm not as good as you are." Lucas laughed, a sound so full of joy that it momentarily lifted Lydia's spirits. "Don't worry. I'll teach you." He dashed off to join his friends, leaving Lydia standing alone, a smile slowly fading from her face. As the party continued, Lydia found herself surrounded by guests who treated her as if she were just a hired hand. Conversations flowed around her, filled with compliments about Vanessa's accomplishments and the grandeur of the event. Lydia couldn't help but feel invisible, her contributions overlooked and unrecognized. "Did you see the new property Vanessa just acquired?" one guest remarked, his voice dripping with admiration. "She's a powerhouse in the real estate market. I heard she's set to make millions this year." Another guest chimed in. "And those philanthropic efforts she's been championing? Truly inspiring. She's really changed the game." Lydia listened, her heart heavy with unvoiced resentment. "Yes, inspiring," she whispered to herself, her fingers tightening around the edge of the table. She had spent countless hours caring for Lucas and Sophia, guiding them through life's challenges. But none of that mattered in the grand narrative Vanessa had built around herself. The truth of their family dynamic was hidden beneath layers of glamour and success. As she poured drinks and served snacks, Lydia caught glimpses of Lucas and Sophia enjoying themselves, their laughter echoing through the room. For a moment, she felt a flicker of pride, but it quickly dimmed as she noticed how they interacted with their friends, seemingly unaware of the sacrifices she had made for them. "Wow, Aunt Lydia really knows how to throw a party," one of Lucas's friends exclaimed. "Wait, is she just a babysitter?" "Yeah, I think so," another replied, shrugging. "She's cool, though. I love the way she plays video games with Lucas." Lydia's heart sank further. Cool? Was that all she was to them? A fun babysitter to pass the time? She felt the weight of years of devotion pressing down on her, an ache in her chest that refused to fade. As the evening wore on, she stood at the fringes of the festivities, her heart heavy with unexpressed emotions. Lydia watched as Vanessa continued to bask in the spotlight, her laughter ringing out like a siren's call, drawing people in. It was a stark reminder of how much she had sacrificed for this family, how her life had been dedicated to raising Lucas and Sophia while Vanessa thrived in her career. Suddenly, she caught sight of Sophia across the room. The young woman was chatting animatedly with a group of friends, her eyes sparkling with excitement. But then Lydia noticed something. The joy in Sophia's face seemed to flicker as she caught a glimpse of her aunt standing alone. A moment later, Sophia broke away from her friends and approached Lydia, concern etching her features. "Aunt Lydia, are you okay?" she asked softly, her voice cutting through the noise of the party. Lydia forced a smile, but the sadness in her eyes betrayed her. "I'm fine, sweetheart. Just taking a little break," she replied, her voice steady despite the turmoil inside. Sophia looked skeptical. "You don't have to pretend with me. I know when you're not feeling great. Is it about the party?" "It's just a lot," Lydia admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. "I love seeing you all happy, but sometimes I feel a bit lost in all of this." Sophia's expression softened, and she took Lydia's hands in her own. "You mean so much to me, Aunt Lydia. I hope you know that. You've always been there for me and Lucas," she said earnestly. Lydia's heart swelled at the sincerity in Sophia's voice, but she couldn't shake the feeling of inadequacy. "I just wish I could feel that way too, you know? Sometimes it's hard to see where I fit in all of this," she confessed, her vulnerability spilling out. Sophia's gaze sharpened with determination. "You deserve to be celebrated just like everyone else here. You're not just our aunt. You're like our mom. You've done so much for us." Before Lydia could respond, a group of guests burst into laughter nearby, their attention drawn back to the festivities. Sophia glanced over her shoulder, her expression shifting as she sensed a change in atmosphere. "Let's go have some fun. I'll make sure everyone knows how amazing you are," Sophia declared, her enthusiasm infectious. "We should do something special for you tonight." Lydia felt a flicker of hope, a small light in the darkness that had settled over her heart. Maybe, just maybe, there was a chance for her to be seen, to be recognized for the love she had given all these years. But as she watched Sophia dash off to rejoin her friends, the doubts crept back in like shadows, threatening to extinguish the spark of hope that had briefly ignited. Returning to the kitchen, Lydia found herself lost in thought, the laughter and chatter of the party drifting in and out of focus. She poured herself a glass of water, her hands trembling slightly as she tried to steady her breathing. It was hard to shake the feeling that she was trapped in a role she had never chosen, the caregiver who remained unseen while the world celebrated her sister's success. As the party continued, Lydia attempted to rejoin the festivities, but the weight of her emotions felt insurmountable. She forced herself to smile and interact with the guests, but each interaction felt hollow, a reminder of her position as an outsider in her own family. The disconnect between her sacrifices and the recognition she craved felt like an insurmountable chasm, widening with each passing moment. She stood by the snack table, absent-mindedly arranging the hors d'oeuvres, when a couple of guests approached. "Hey, Lydia, can you help us with this game?" one of them asked, waving a card in her direction. Sure," she replied, her voice lacking the enthusiasm she hoped to convey. As they explained the rules, Lydia nodded, trying to engage, but her mind was elsewhere, tangled in her feelings of neglect. It was a game meant to entertain, but all she could think about was how her contributions were overshadowed by the spectacle of the evening. The laughter around her felt like a distant echo, a reminder of the joy that seemed just out of reach. Sophia stood at the edge of the grand living room, her heart racing as she watched Lydia move about, her hands busy with the decorations. The vibrant colors of the balloons and streamers seemed to pale in comparison to the weight of emotion that hung in the air. Lydia had poured her heart and soul into making this birthday party special for Lucas. Yet Sophia could see the sadness etched on her aunt's face. Why does it always have to be like this? Sophia whispered to herself, frustration bubbling inside her. She loved her mother, but she also loved Lydia, who had been more of a mother to her and Lucas than Vanessa ever had been. While Vanessa was busy with her career, Lydia had been there for every scraped knee, every late-night talk, and every moment of joy and sorrow. Yet, as she looked around, it was clear that no one truly recognized the depth of Lydia's contribution to their lives. "Lydia, do you think we have enough balloons?" Vanessa's voice cut through Sophia's thoughts like a knife, and she winced at the dismissive tone. I think we could use a few more," Lydia replied, forcing a smile as she adjusted a cluster of balloons that had floated a little too high. She was trying to hide her weariness, but the tightness around her eyes betrayed her. "Great. Let's make it look fabulous," Vanessa exclaimed, her energy infectious but her focus solely on the aesthetics. She turned to chat with a couple of guests who had just arrived, leaving Lydia to continue her preparations alone. Sophia took a deep breath, feeling a mix of admiration and sadness for Lydia. She glanced at her mother, who was now deep in conversation, laughing as if the party was only about her and her friends. Sophia felt a pang of anger. How could their mother be so oblivious to the woman who had sacrificed so much for them? After a few moments of contemplation, Sophia made a decision. She needed to do something special for Lydia, a gesture that would let her know just how appreciated she truly was. An idea sparked in her mind, and she raced to find her phone, her heart beating faster with each step. As she settled down in a quiet corner of the living room, Sophia opened her video recording app and took a moment to gather her thoughts. She wanted this to be perfect, something that would encapsulate all the love and gratitude she held for Lydia. It was time to show her aunt that she wasn't alone in this room full of people. "Okay, here goes nothing," Sophia murmured, pressing the record button. She cleared her throat and began, "Hi, Aunt Lydia. It's Sophia. I know today is Lucas's birthday, but I wanted to take a moment to talk about you." Sophia paused, her heart swelling with emotion. "You have been such an important part of our lives, and I don't think we say that enough. You've always been there for us, through every up and down." As she spoke, memories flooded her mind. The late-night chats filled with laughter, the countless times Lydia had comforted her after a fight with friends, and all those weekends spent baking cookies in the kitchen. "Remember the time we made that enormous chocolate cake, and it ended up being a complete disaster?" Sophia chuckled, shaking her head at the memory. "You laughed it off and said it was the best cake ever, even though it was practically inedible." Sophia could feel tears welling in her eyes. "I just want you to know how much you mean to us. You've been more than just a babysitter. You've been our family." She took a deep breath, her voice quivering slightly. "I love you, Aunt Lydia, and I hope you know that you are so important to me and Lucas. Thank you for everything. You deserve to be celebrated, too." Sophia ended the recording, wiping away a stray tear. She felt a surge of determination. This video would be her gift to Lydia, a testament to the love that often went unspoken in their family. Just then, Vanessa re-entered the room, her eyes scanning the crowd for familiar faces. "Sophia, are you ready? We have to gather everyone for the cake." Sophia felt a moment of panic. Just give me a minute, okay?" she replied, clutching her phone tightly. She needed to make sure everything was perfect before revealing her surprise. As she stepped away from the crowd, she could see Lydia in the kitchen, wiping her hands on a dish towel, a look of exhaustion mixed with determination on her face. It struck Sophia how much Lydia had given up for the sake of their family. "Hey, Aunt Lydia," Sophia called out, her voice steady now. "Can I show you something?" Lydia turned, her brows furrowing slightly in confusion. "Sure, sweetheart. What is it?" Sophia felt her heart race as she approached. "I made a video for you. I want you to see it." Lydia's expression softened and she nodded, curiosity gleaming in her eyes. "Okay, let me just finish this up and I'll be right there." As Lydia returned to her work, Sophia felt her excitement bubbling over. She knew this would mean the world to Lydia, and she couldn't wait to share it with her. Sophia quickly set up her phone, ensuring it was positioned to capture the moment perfectly. She glanced back at Lydia, who was now pouring punch into a large bowl, her movements graceful yet tired. "All right, everyone, gather around. It's time for the cake and some special surprises." Vanessa's voice boomed, calling everyone to the center of the living room. Sophia's heart raced. This was it. She would present her video during the party, and Lydia would finally know how cherished she was. As guests shuffled in, Sophia felt a mix of nerves and excitement. "Lydia, come here," Vanessa called, her voice cutting through Sophia's thoughts. Sophia rushed to her aunt's side, grabbing her hand. "Aunt Lydia, you have to see this now." Lydia looked at Sophia, surprised. "What is it, dear?" "Just trust me. You'll love it," Sophia insisted, pulling her towards the center of the living room where the guests were gathering. As they approached, Vanessa grabbed a microphone. "Everyone, before we dig into the cake, I have a little surprise for Lucas." Sophia's heart sank slightly. She felt the pressure of the moment. She needed to act fast. Actually, Mom, I have a surprise for Aunt Lydia." The room fell silent, and all eyes turned toward Sophia. "Is that so?" Vanessa raised an eyebrow, clearly caught off guard. "Yes. I made a video to show how much we all appreciate everything you've done for us, Aunt Lydia," Sophia announced, her voice shaking slightly but filled with determination. Lydia's eyes widened, a mix of surprise and hope reflecting in her gaze. "Oh, sweetheart, you didn't have to dash." "Yes, I did," Sophia interrupted, her voice growing stronger. "You deserve this." With a small smile, she pressed play on her phone, and the living room filled with the soft glow from the screen. The video began to play, and Sophia held her breath, watching Lydia's expression change as the memories unfolded. The first clip showed a younger Sophia and Lucas, giggling uncontrollably while Lydia attempted to read them a bedtime story, her voice animated and filled with love. Lydia chuckled softly, her eyes misty as she watched herself in that moment, surrounded by the laughter of the children she adored. As the video rolled on, it captured snippets of family outings, holidays spent together, and quiet moments of Lydia comforting the children during tough times. Sophia could see the emotions washing over Lydia's face, a mixture of nostalgia and recognition. "Look at all those memories," Sophia whispered to Lydia, who was now transfixed by the screen. "Oh, my goodness. I remember that day at the park," Lydia exclaimed, her voice thick with emotion as she wiped a tear from her cheek. The video continued, showcasing the love and bond that had formed over the years, and Sophia felt a wave of pride swelling inside her. She had done this for Lydia, to finally give her the recognition she deserved. "Thank you, Aunt Lydia," Sophia whispered, squeezing her hand tightly as the video came to an end. As the last frame faded, the room erupted into applause, but Sophia could only focus on Lydia. Her aunt was visibly moved, tears streaming down her cheeks as she turned to Sophia, pulling her into a tight embrace. "Thank you, sweetheart. I had no idea you felt this way," Lydia murmured, her voice cracking with emotion. Sophia smiled through her own tears. "You mean the world to us, Aunt Lydia." Behind them, Vanessa stood frozen, her mouth slightly agape as she processed the impact of the video. In that moment, as Lydia held Sophia close, the weight of unspoken words and neglected emotions hung heavily in the air, waiting for the next chapter to unfold. As the laughter and chatter filled the air at the spacious backyard of Vanessa's elegant home, Lydia felt a knot tighten in her stomach. The decorations she had spent hours arranging glimmered under the twinkling fairy lights, but they felt more like a reminder of her invisibility than a celebration of life. The vibrant colors of balloons and streamers contrasted sharply with the dull ache in her heart. "Lydia, can you help me with this?" Vanessa's voice rang out, pulling her from her thoughts. Lydia turned to see her sister bustling around, her designer dress flowing as she moved, exuding confidence and charm. Vanessa was in her element, surrounded by guests who admired her wealth and success, oblivious to the woman who had sacrificed her own life for her children. "Coming," Lydia called out, forcing a smile as she approached. She watched as Vanessa directed a group of party planners, her enthusiasm infectious. There was a time when Lydia would have reveled in this energy, but now it felt like a distant memory, a reminder of how out of place she had become. As the festivities began, Lydia slipped away from the crowd, seeking refuge in the kitchen. She busily arranged the dessert table, placing cupcakes with intricate frosting designs alongside a multi-tiered cake that Vanessa had insisted on. Each cupcake felt like a little piece of her heart, sweet, colorful, and ultimately overlooked. "Hey, Aunt Lydia!" Lucas's cheerful voice broke through her reverie. He bounded into the kitchen, a whirlwind of excitement and energy. "Are you ready for the big reveal?" Lydia chuckled softly, her heart swelling at his enthusiasm. "What big reveal, sweetie?" "The surprise video Sophia made. It's going to be awesome," he grinned, his eyes sparkling with anticipation. "Oh, I can't wait to see it," she replied, trying to match his enthusiasm. But deep down, She wondered if anyone would really notice her presence in the video. It was always about the glamour, the glitz of Vanessa's world. And as much as she loved Lucas and Sophia, she couldn't shake the feeling that her contributions were often overshadowed by their mother's grandiosity. As the party continued, Lydia stood on the sidelines, watching as guests mingled, laughing and sharing stories. She felt like a ghost haunting the edges of the celebration, invisible to the world around her. The music played loudly, but all she could hear were the whispers of her own insecurities. "Did you see Vanessa's new car? It must have cost a fortune," a guest exclaimed, laughter bubbling up around them. "Yeah, and she's taking the kids to Europe this summer. Must be nice," another chimed in. Lydia's heart sank further into her chest. She had always been proud of the life she had built for Lucas and Sophia, but in the shadow of Vanessa's wealth, it felt insignificant. When had it become so easy to forget the sacrifices she had made? Just then, she caught sight of Sophia, who was setting up a projector in the backyard. The young woman's brow was furrowed in concentration, but there was a spark in her eyes that Lydia recognized. It was the same spark that had ignited her own passion for creating a loving home for the children. "Hey, sweetie, need any help?" Lydia asked, stepping closer. "No, Aunt Lydia, I got this," Sophia replied, her voice filled with determination. "I want it to be a surprise for everyone, especially you." Lydia felt a warmth spread through her chest at Sophia's words. "You're doing an amazing job, honey. I can't wait to see it." As the sun began to set, casting a warm glow over the gathering, the time finally arrived to unveil Sophia's much-anticipated video. The guests lifted their glasses, and the atmosphere was charged with excitement. Lydia took her place among the crowd, feeling a mix of hope and apprehension. Maybe this was the moment everyone would finally see her. "All right, everyone, gather around," Sophia called, her voice cutting through the chatter. "I have something special to share with you all. It's a video I made to celebrate my brother's birthday and to show how much Aunt Lydia means to us." A ripple of curiosity spread through the crowd as they settled into their seats. Lydia's heart raced, a cocktail of emotions swirling inside her. She glanced over at Vanessa, who was beaming with pride, unaware of the unexpected turn the evening was about to take. As the video began to play, the screen flickered to life, illuminating the backyard with memories. Lydia's heart skipped a beat as she recognized the familiar images. Moments captured over the years her laughter with Lucas and Sophia, the countless bedtime stories, the homemade pancake breakfast, and the silly dance parties in the living room. "Look, there's Aunt Lydia." Lucas's voice broke the silence, and Lydia turned to see him smiling brightly. "I remember that. She let us put sprinkles on everything." The audience chuckled, and Lydia felt her cheeks flush with a mixture of pride and embarrassment. The video continued, showcasing Lydia's unwavering love and dedication. Clips of her comforting the children during tough times, cheering them on at school events, and simply being present filled the screen. Each moment played out like a testament to the bond they shared, and Lydia's heart swelled with each frame. "Remember this?" Sophia's voice chimed in from the video as it cut to a scene of Lydia helping her with a school project. "Aunt Lydia stayed up all night to help me finish the poster, even though she had to work the next day." The audience erupted into laughter, but Lydia felt tears prick at the corners of her eyes. She had always done it out of love, but hearing Sophia acknowledge it publicly filled her with a sense of validation she had longed for. As the video neared its end, it transitioned to a simple message from Sophia. "Aunt Lydia, you are not just our caregiver, you are our family. We love you so much." The screen faded to black, leaving only the words hanging in the air. In the sudden silence that followed, Lydia was overwhelmed with emotion. Tears streamed down her cheeks as she realized how much those moments meant to the children. They had seen her, truly seen her, and they had appreciated her love in a way she had never expected. The applause that erupted from the guests brought her back to reality, but it only deepened her sorrow and joy. They had witnessed her life, and for the first time, she felt acknowledged. Yet, the absence of Vanessa's voice among the cheers stung. She turned, searching for her sister, and found. Her eyes darted away, and Lydia could see the tightening of her sister's jaw. It was as if the recognition of Lydia's role was a thorn in Vanessa's side. As the applause died down, Lydia felt a mix of joy and pain. The recognition was sweet, but it also illuminated the years of neglect she had endured not just from Vanessa, but from the very children she loved as her own. Her heart was a battleground of emotions, and she didn't know how to process it all. "Lydia," Lucas continued, his voice strong and clear, "I just want you to know how much I appreciate you. I know I might not have said it enough, but you mean the world to me. You've always been there, and I want you to know that you're family." With every word, Lydia felt a crack in the dam of her emotions. She could feel the tears brimming in her eyes, blurring her vision. The warmth of his words wrapped around her like a comforting blanket. "Thank you, Lucas. That means more to me than you'll ever know," she choked out, her voice barely above a whisper. Just then, Vanessa stepped forward, her discomfort palpable. She started, but the words seemed to catch in her throat. Lydia could see the guilt etching itself into her sister's features, and it made her heart ache. She had spent years fighting for some acknowledgement, and now it was happening, but the cost weighed heavily on her. The applause faded into an awkward silence, and Lydia sensed the tension in the air. She took a deep breath, trying to steady herself, when suddenly Lucas spoke again, his tone shifting to something more vulnerable. "You know, for a long time, I didn't understand why you were always there for us, Lydia. I took it for granted. I thought it was just your job, but now I realize it was so much more than that." Lydia felt the warmth of gratitude wash over her, but a shadow of doubt lingered in her heart. Was this moment truly the beginning of a change, or just a fleeting acknowledgement that would soon fade away? "I think it's time we all recognize Lydia for everything she's done," Lucas said, his voice rising in conviction. "She deserves more than just our thanks. She deserves to be a part of our lives in every way, not just as our caretaker." The crowd murmured in agreement, and Lydia felt her heart flutter. Could it be possible? Could this moment be the turning point she had longed for? But even as joy began to swell within her, the sight of Vanessa's expression, the tightness in her posture, and the way her mouth pressed into a thin line reminded her of the years they had lost to ambition and neglect. As the applause erupted once more, Lydia's joy was tinged with a bittersweet realization. The love she had poured into Lucas and Sophia was finally being recognized, but the very sister she had sacrificed for was standing to the side, visibly uncomfortable and seemingly resentful of the attention Lydia was receiving. "Thank you, everyone," Lydia said, her voice shaking as she fought to maintain her composure. "But I don't need this recognition. I did what I did because I love you both. That's all that matters to me." But as she spoke, she couldn't ignore the flicker of hope igniting within her, a hope that perhaps this was the moment when everything could change. A moment where Lydia would no longer be just a woman in the background, but a cherished part of the family she had fought so hard to support. Yet, as the applause continued to echo around her, she noticed Vanessa's face, a mix of pride and something darker in emotion that felt almost like jealousy. It was then that Lydia realized this moment was only the beginning. The acknowledgement was a balm for her soul, but the wounds of their past were not so easily healed, and the path to true reconciliation would be a long and complex journey. "Thank you, Lucas," she finally managed to say, her voice steady, but her heart still racing. "I love you both more than words can express." As she spoke, she caught Vanessa's eye, and there was a moment of connection, a fleeting acknowledgement of the love that had always been there, buried beneath the weight of unspoken words and unmet expectations. But that connection was fragile, and as the celebration continued, Lydia couldn't shake the feeling that while she was finally being seen, there was still much to be addressed between her and Vanessa. "Let's make a toast," Lucas suddenly declared, raising his glass high. "To family, to Lydia, and everything she means to us." As the crowd echoed the sentiment, Lydia felt the warmth of acceptance begin to envelop her. But even amidst the cheers and laughter, She understood that recognition was just the first step in a long journey toward healing the complex relationship with her sister, a journey that would require honesty, vulnerability, and above all, time. And as she stood there, surrounded by the people she loved, she dared to hope that perhaps this birthday celebration would be the catalyst they all needed to finally bridge the gaps that had kept them apart for so long. As the party swirled around her, Lydia felt the weight of the world pressing down on her shoulders. The laughter, the clinking of glasses, and the chatter of guests seemed to fade into the background as her gaze remained fixed on Lucas and Sophia. She watched them with a mix of pride and heartache, knowing just how much she had poured into their lives over the past 3 decades. But tonight, in this grand celebration, she felt more like an outsider than ever. Sophia, with her keen intuition, sensed her aunt's sadness. She had always known how much Lydia meant to her and Lucas, even if their mother seemed oblivious to it. Determined to change the narrative of the evening, she approached her brother, who was animatedly chatting with friends. "Lucas, I think we need to do something special for Aunt Lydia," she whispered urgently, her eyes sparkling with resolve. Lucas looked puzzled for a moment, but then nodded slowly, understanding the depth of Sophia's intention. "You're right. She deserves it. Let's make sure she knows how much we appreciate her." Sophia smiled brightly at her brother, her heart swelling with hope. "I'll record a message for her, something that captures all the love we have for her." As the party continued to bustle around them, Sophia slipped away to find a quiet corner. She pulled out her phone, her fingers trembling slightly with excitement and nervousness. "Okay, let's do this," she whispered to herself. She pressed the record button, taking a deep breath before speaking. "Aunt Lydia," she began, her voice soft but steady. "I wanted to take a moment to tell you how much you mean to me and to Lucas. You've always been there for us, even when Mom was too busy to notice. You've been our rock, our confidant, our second mom. I remember all those little moments we spent together, like when you taught me to ride my bike, or when you stayed up late to help me with my homework, or when you just listened to me talk about my dreams. You made everything better, and I love you for that." As she reminisced, her voice wavered with emotion. "I hope this video shows you how grateful we are. You deserve to be celebrated, Aunt Lydia, and I want everyone to know how amazing you are." With that, she stopped the recording and sent the video to the projector, her heart racing with anticipation. Meanwhile, Lydia was still immersed in her thoughts, her heart heavy as she watched Vanessa float through the crowd, basking in the glow of her own success. It was as if Lydia were invisible, a mere shadow in the background, blending into the decor of the lavish party. She tried to shake off the feeling of resentment, but it lingered like a stubborn fog. Just then, Sophia returned to the main area, her face alight with excitement. "Aunt Lydia, we're going to show something special right now," she announced, making her way through the crowd until she reached her aunt. Lydia raised an eyebrow, curiosity piqued. "What is it, sweetie?" "You'll see. Just come with me." Sophia tugged at Lydia's hand, leading her toward the projector. The guests began to gather, their attention shifting to the screen. Lydia felt a flutter of anxiety in her stomach, unsure of what was about to unfold. As the lights dimmed, Lydia's heart began to race. The screen flickered to life, and for a moment, she felt a rush of apprehension. The first images appeared, showing snapshots of her life with Lucas and Sophia over the years, snippets of laughter, birthday parties, and quiet moments spent together. As the video played, she felt her heart swell with nostalgia, a bittersweet ache filling her chest. Then Sophia's voice came through the speakers. "Aunt Lydia, we want to show you how much you mean to us." The words poured out like a warm embrace, wrapping around Lydia's heart. Lydia's breath hitched in her throat as she watched the images flash before her eyes. There she was, beaming with joy as she held a cake, surrounded by the 2 kids who had stolen her heart. And there they were again, bundled up in winter coats, smiling as they built a snowman together. She could hear Sophia's laughter ringing in her ears, a sound she had cherished all these years. Tears began to stream down her face as she watched the memories unfold. I can't believe this," Lydia whispered, her voice trembling. The realization that she had been seen, that her sacrifices had mattered, overwhelmed her. "I love you, Aunt Lydia," Sophia's voice continued, breaking through her thoughts. "You've always been more than just a babysitter. You've been our family, and I want everyone to know that." The room was silent, save for the sound of Sophia's heartfelt message. Lydia's heart raced as she felt the energy shift in the room. People began to wipe their eyes, and she could see the guests exchanging glances, no longer seeing her as just a caretaker, but as a pivotal figure in the lives of Lucas and Sophia. As the video concluded, a wave of applause erupted from the crowd. Lydia felt herself standing there, speechless, her heart swelling with gratitude and disbelief. She glanced around, searching for Lucas, who was now standing, looking at her with tears in his eyes. "Aunt Lydia," he began, his voice breaking through the applause. "I want to say something." With that, he stepped forward, his gaze earnest and sincere. "I don't know how to express this without getting emotional, but I want to thank you for everything. You've shaped who I am today. You've been there for us in ways that no one else could. I'm so grateful for the love and support you've given us." The room fell silent again, all eyes on Lydia, who felt a mixture of joy and pain. She had yearned for this moment, a recognition that had been so long in coming. But as she looked at Lucas, she also felt the weight of the years of feeling unappreciated and overlooked. The applause grew louder, and Lydia could feel the warmth of their appreciation washing over her like a tide. But then she noticed Vanessa standing at the edge of the crowd, her expression a mix of discomfort and guilt. Lydia's heart sank as she realized that this moment of recognition also highlighted the chasm that had formed between them. Sophia, sensing the tension, decided to take matters into her own hands. "Aunt Lydia," she called out, her voice steady, "I want to show you something else." With a determined expression, Sophia stepped forward and pressed play on another video. This one was different, more personal. Lydia watched as Sophia's face filled the screen again, but this time, she was speaking directly to Lydia. "Aunt Lydia, you've been my guiding light. I hope you know that you're not just my aunt, you're family. I love you so much." As the video continued, it was filled with clips of their everyday life, Sophia laughing, playing games with Lydia, sharing secrets, and moments that showed the depth of their bond. Lydia's heart ached. An effort I put into raising them. Instead, I felt like a ghost in my own family. Vanessa, visibly shaken, stepped closer. "I'm so sorry. You've been the glue holding us together, and I've been blind to it. I can't imagine how that must have felt." The sincerity in Vanessa's voice began to chip away at Lydia's defenses. "It's hard for me to trust that this isn't just another empty promise, Vanessa. I've heard it before, but today was different. For the first time, I felt seen. I felt valued. But then there's you, standing there, and it feels like all of that recognition is tainted by the years of neglect." Vanessa's eyes glistened with unshed tears. "I want to do better. I want to involve you in our lives. Not just as a caretaker, but as my sister, as part of the family. I know it's going to take time to rebuild that trust, but I'm willing to put in the effort." Lydia looked at her sister, searching for any hint of insincerity, but all she could see was a woman grappling with her own shortcomings. "You can't just say that, Vanessa. Actions speak louder than words. You need to show me that you mean it." "I will," Vanessa promised, her voice cracking. "I will show you. I'll include you in everything. Lucas and Sophia need you, and I need you too. I realize that success means nothing if we don't have family. I want to make amends, Lydia. Please let me try." There was a long pause, and the tension in the air felt as thick as fog. Lydia's heart raced as she weighed her sister's words against the years of hurt. "You say that now, but I'm scared of being hurt again. I've invested so much love into our family, and it's hard to believe it can change." "I understand that," Vanessa replied, her voice steady. "But I'm ready to fight for our relationship. I want us to be sisters again, not just in name, but in every way that matters. Let's start rebuilding, step by step. You mean too much to me for it to be any other way." Lydia felt her walls begin to crumble, but doubt still gnawed at her insides. "What if I don't want to be just a part of your life when it's convenient for you? I want to be included, not just tolerated." "Then I promise to make you a priority," Vanessa insisted, her eyes locked on Lydia's. "We can make plans together, have family dinners, and even start new traditions. You'll be included in everything. I don't want to just talk about it. I want to live it." Lydia took a deep breath, the weight of years pressing down on her shoulders. "I need time to process this. I want to believe you, but it's hard. I'm tired of being let down." "I get it," Vanessa said softly. "I'll give you all the time you need, but I will work hard to earn your trust back. I'm ready to change." Lydia finally nodded, a flicker of hope igniting within her. "Okay, let's see if you really mean it. But know this, Vanessa. It's going to take more than words. You have to show me that you're serious." "I will, Lydia. I promise," Vanessa replied, her voice firm with determination. As the sisters stood there, the weight of their past hung heavy in the air, but a new understanding began to take root. The journey ahead would be long and fraught with obstacles, but for the first time in years, Lydia felt a glimmer of hope. Maybe, just maybe, they could rebuild their relationship and create a new chapter together, one where both sisters were seen, valued, and loved as they deserved. The atmosphere in the room began to shift palpably as the realization of the emotional weight of the moment settled over the guests. Lydia stood with her heart racing, her eyes still glistening with tears from Sophia's heartfelt video. The laughter and chatter that once filled the air faded into a heavy silence, the guests now acutely aware of the raw emotion that had just unfolded. Vanessa, standing near the makeshift podium where Lucas had just delivered his speech, felt the unmistakable tension between her and her sister. She glanced at Lydia, who was still processing the love and gratitude that had been projected onto the screen. Lydia's face bore the marks of years of unrecognized effort, and Vanessa's heart ached with a mix of regret and determination to make things right. "Lydia," Vanessa finally called out, her voice breaking the stillness. Can we talk?" Lydia turned toward her sister, a mixture of hope and skepticism flickering in her eyes. The years of feeling invisible weighed heavily on her, but there was a flicker of longing for reconciliation. "Talk about what, Vanessa?" she replied, her tone guarded. "About how you've always treated me like I was just a babysitter." Vanessa's expression shifted, and she took a tentative step closer, lowering her voice. "I know I've made mistakes. I've been so wrapped up in my own world that I didn't see how much you sacrificed for our family. I'm truly sorry." The guests around them shifted uncomfortably, sensing the intensity of the moment. A few leaned in, eager to hear the sisters exchange, while others discreetly turned their attention back to their drinks, respecting the fragile atmosphere. "Sorry doesn't change the past, Vanessa," Lydia replied, crossing her arms defensively. "You've spent 30 years building your empire while I've been here, raising your children as if they were my own. And what did I get in return? A lifetime of feeling like I was just invisible." Vanessa flinched at the sting of Lydia's words, her chest tightening with guilt. "I never meant to treat you that way," she said softly. "I was so focused on my career that I lost sight of what truly mattered. I lost sight of you." Lydia's breath hitched as she fought back more tears. "You think I wanted to be your shadow? I wanted to be recognized as part of this family, not just as the one who took care of your kids. You don't even know how many birthdays I spent alone, how many holidays I watched from the sidelines while you were out living your glamorous life." "I know," Vanessa sighed, rubbing her temples in frustration. "I realize that now. I've been selfish. I've been so busy trying to prove myself to the world that I forgot about my own sister, the one who took care of my children, who sacrificed everything for us." A soft murmur of agreement rippled through the crowd as they listened, some nodding their heads in empathy. Lydia continued to stare at Vanessa, searching her sister's face for sincerity, for the warmth and connection they once shared that had been buried beneath years of neglect. "I just don't know if I can believe you," Lydia finally admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. "Words are just words, Vanessa. They don't mean much when they've been said so many times before without any real change." The tension thickened in the air as Vanessa took a deep breath, her eyes shimmering with unshed tears. "I understand that, and I don't deserve your trust right now. But I want to change. I want to be better, not just for myself, but for you and the kids." "Better how?" Lydia challenged, her brow furrowing as she studied her sister. "You say you want to change, but what does that look like? What will you do differently?" "First, I want to include you in our lives," Vanessa replied earnestly, stepping closer to Lydia. "I want you to be part of the family, not just as their caregiver, but as their aunt, as my sister. I want you to feel valued and recognized. You are part of this family, and I want everyone else to see that too." The guests exchanged glances, some clearly moved by Vanessa's words, while others remained skeptical. Lydia took a step back, her heart torn between the possibility of reconciliation and the fear of disappointment. "It sounds nice, Vanessa, but actions speak louder than words. I need to see that you mean it." "I promise," Vanessa insisted, her voice steady but tinged with vulnerability. "I'll make it my mission to show you that I mean it. I'll make time for you. I'll include you in our family events, and I'll do everything I can to make you feel loved and appreciated." For a moment, silence enveloped them, the weight of their shared history pressing down heavily. Lydia could feel the eyes of the guests on them, but in that moment, it felt as if they were the only two people in the room. "I want to believe you. I really do," Lydia finally said, her voice trembling. "But it's going to take time for me to trust you again. You can't just say these things and expect me to forget everything that happened." "I wouldn't dream of asking you to forget," Vanessa replied earnestly. "You have every right to feel hurt and angry. All I ask is for the chance to prove to you that I can be the sister you deserve." The emotional intensity between them was palpable, and Lydia's resolve began to soften, even if just a little. "I just want to feel like I belong. I want my family to see me as more than just a caretaker." As Vanessa nodded, the guests began to lean in closer, their interest piqued by the powerful exchange. "You belong, Lydia," Vanessa said firmly. "You always have. I want to make sure everyone sees that, starting today, let's make a new beginning together." The air in the room felt different now, the tension replaced by a fragile hope. Lydia's heart flickered with cautious optimism, though she still felt the weight of the years that had passed. "Okay," she said slowly, her voice steadying. "I'll give you a chance, but you have to understand that it's going to take time." "I'll wait," Vanessa replied, her voice filled with sincerity. "I'll wait as long as it takes." As the sisters stood facing each other, a moment of understanding passed between them, a quiet acknowledgement of the journey they would need to undertake together. The guests, moved by the emotional exchange, began to whisper amongst themselves, many expressing their own feelings about family and forgiveness. "Let's not let this moment slip away," Lydia finally said, breaking the silence. "Let's keep this conversation going, not just here tonight, but in the days to come." "Absolutely," Vanessa agreed, a genuine smile breaking through her earlier tension. "We'll take it one step at a time, together." With that, the air in the room felt lighter, as if a weight had been lifted. The guests erupted into applause, a blend of relief and joy filling the atmosphere. Lydia and Vanessa exchanged a hesitant but hopeful smile, the first step toward healing their fractured relationship. The party was in full swing, but the atmosphere had shifted. Lydia stood at the edge of the gathering, her heart racing as she processed the whirlwind of emotions that had overtaken her since the video had played. The laughter and chatter of the guests felt distant, almost as if they were happening in another world. She could still feel the weight of the moment when Lucas had thanked her publicly, the applause ringing in her ears like a distant echo. It was a moment she had longed for, but never truly believed would come. Vanessa approached her, her expression a mix of guilt and determination. "Lydia," she began, her voice trembling slightly. "Can we talk?" Lydia's chest tightened. This was a conversation they had needed to have for years, but the scars of the past felt too deep. She nodded, though her heart was heavy. They moved to a quieter corner of the backyard, where the string lights created a soft glow, contrasting with the tension in the air. I want to apologize," Vanessa said, her eyes searching Lydia's face for any sign of understanding. "I've been so focused on my career, on everything that I thought mattered. I didn't realize how much I was neglecting you and the kids." Lydia crossed her arms, a protective gesture that shielded her from the vulnerability she felt. "You didn't just neglect me, Vanessa. You made a choice to prioritize everything else over your own sister." The words came out sharper than she intended, but the hurt had been bottled up for far too long. Vanessa flinched but pressed on. "I know. I see that now. I was consumed by my ambition. I thought I was doing what was best for everyone, but I see how wrong I was." She paused, taking a deep breath. "You've given so much of your life to my children, to me. I've taken that for granted, and I'm so sorry for that. But sorry doesn't change the years, does it?" Lydia replied, her voice softer now, but still laced with emotion. "It doesn't erase the nights I spent worrying about whether you even thought of us, or if you ever considered how hard it was for me to be the one holding everything together while you chased your dreams." The confession hung heavily in the air. Lydia felt a mix of anger and sadness, a painful reminder of the sacrifices she had made. Vanessa's eyes filled with tears, and she stepped closer, her voice cracking. "What can I do to make this right? I want to fix this. I want you to be part of our lives, not just as a caretaker, but as my sister again." Lydia hesitated, taken aback by the sincerity in Vanessa's voice. "It's not that simple. I've spent 3 decades being in the background, always the one who was there, but never really seen. I don't know if I can just step back into the spotlight of your life after all this time." "You don't have to step into the spotlight, Lydia," Vanessa urged, her hands clasped together as if in prayer. "You just need to be acknowledged, to know you're valued. I want you to be involved in our lives. I want you to feel like family again. Please, let me show you how much you mean to me and the kids." Lydia took a deep breath. "What does that even look like? You say you want me to be part of your life, but what about the years of neglect? How can I trust that things will be different now?" Vanessa met her gaze, determination etched on her face. "I'll make it different. From now on, I want you to be included in everything: family dinners, holidays, and decisions. I don't want to just have you as a caretaker. I want you as a sister. You deserve that." Lydia felt a flicker of hope but was still guarded. "And what if you change your mind in a few months? Or worse, forget again? I don't want to be hurt like that again." "I promise I won't," Vanessa insisted, her voice steady. "I need to show you that I can change. I need to prove to you that I recognize everything you've done. I want to honor that. I want to heal this rift between us." They stood in silence for a moment, the sounds of the party fading into the background. Lydia looked at her sister, searching for the sincerity she hoped was there. The years of resentment and hurt were heavy, but the desire for connection tugged at her heart. "Okay," Lydia finally said, her voice barely above a whisper. "I'll try, but it won't be easy for me. I need time to process everything, to see that you really mean it." Vanessa nodded, relief washing over her features. "That's all I'm asking for. Just give me a chance, and I won't let you down again. I'll make sure you feel like part of the family." As they spoke, Lucas and Sophia joined them, sensing the weight of the conversation. "Is everything okay?" Lucas asked, concern etched on his face. "We're just having a little chat," Lydia replied, forcing a smile. "Your mom and I are working on some things." Sophia stepped forward, her eyes bright. "I'm so glad you guys are talking. I love you both so much, and it makes me happy to see you together." She glanced at Lydia, her expression earnest. "You mean so much to us, Aunt Lydia. I want you to be part of everything, too." Lydia felt her heart swell at Sophia's words. "I love you too, sweetheart. I always have." Lucas chimed in. "We want you around more often. You're not just our aunt. You're our family. We need you, Lydia." Lydia looked at the two young adults she had helped raise, her heart aching with affection. "I want to be there for you both, but it's going to take some time for me to adjust to everything. That's happened." "We'll be patient," Sophia promised, her smile infectious. "We'll make sure you know how much you're loved." Lydia glanced at Vanessa, who was watching the exchange with a mix of pride and hope. "I'm not used to being in the center of things," Lydia admitted, "but I can try. I just need to know that this time, it's for real." Vanessa stepped forward, her eyes unwavering. "I swear, Lydia, I'm committed to this." The bond between them felt fragile yet hopeful, a tentative bridge being built over years of neglect. Lydia could see the sincerity in her sister's eyes and felt a flicker of hope, a possibility that perhaps they could mend their fractured relationship. As the party continued around them, laughter and joy filling the air, Lydia took a deep breath, allowing herself to believe that maybe, just maybe, they could find their way back to each other. She knew it wouldn't be easy, but the promise of a new beginning was a comforting thought. For the first time in years, she felt the weight of her past lifting, replaced by the warmth of a future that, with effort and understanding, could be filled with love. As party atmosphere had shifted dramatically after the emotional revelations, and Lydia stood at the edge of the living room, her heart racing with a mix of confusion and anticipation. The joyful laughter and chatter of guests seemed to fade into a distant murmur as she tried to process what had just happened. Lucas and Sophia, still beaming with pride and love for her, had just embraced her, promising to always include her in their lives. But just as she began to feel a flicker of hope, the door swung open, and an unexpected figure stepped inside. The crowd turned, and Lydia squinted into the light to see a tall man in a sharp suit, holding a briefcase. His demeanor suggested he was someone of importance, and the sudden hush that fell over the room indicated that everyone was just as intrigued as she was. Lydia felt a knot tighten in her stomach. Who was this man, and what was he doing here? "Excuse me, everyone," the man said, his voice deep and authoritative. "I'm Mr. Thompson, attorney for the estate of Vanessa Turner." Vanessa, who had been speaking with a few guests nearby, froze, her smile fading as she recognized the lawyer. "What are you doing here?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper, a mix of confusion and apprehension washing over her features. Mr. Thompson adjusted his glasses, his expression serious yet not unkind. "I apologize for the intrusion, but I believe we need to discuss the matters of the estate now, especially in light of the recent events." He glanced around the room, meeting the curious gazes of the guests. "It seems that there are some important details that require your attention, Lydia." Lydia's heart began to pound. She exchanged glances with Lucas and Sophia, who both looked equally bewildered. "What do you mean?" Lydia asked, her voice trembling slightly. "What could possibly be important for me?" Mr. Thompson opened his briefcase and pulled out a stack of papers. As part of Vanessa's estate planning, she made certain provisions that pertain directly to you, Lydia. He took a deep breath before continuing. "In her will, Vanessa has left a significant sum of money to you, acknowledging your role in raising Lucas and Sophia." A stunned silence enveloped the room as Lydia's mind raced. The words echoed in her ears, but she could hardly grasp their meaning. Money? Why would she? Her voice trailed off as confusion clouded her thoughts. Vanessa stepped forward, her face pale. "This isn't what it seems," she protested, her hands trembling. "Lydia, I never meant for you to find out this way. I thought we could handle it privately." Mr. Thompson raised a hand to silence her. "This is a legal matter, and it's important that Lydia understands the full context. Vanessa has been aware of your contributions all these years, and this is her way of recognizing that, albeit late." Lydia felt a surge of emotions: anger, confusion, disbelief. Why now? After all this time? You never acknowledged me before, Vanessa. Why would you do this now? Her voice rose, filled with hurt. Is this supposed to make everything better? Lydia, please, Vanessa pleaded, stepping closer. I've made mistakes. I've been so focused on my career that I've neglected the people who matter the most. This isn't just about the money. It's about making amends. Amends, Lydia spat, feeling the burn of resentment. You think a check will change the years of neglect and emotional distance? You've made me feel invisible my entire life, and now you want to throw money at me. Mr. Thompson interjected, trying to restore some calm. Lydia, I understand this is overwhelming, but the intent behind the will was to ensure you are recognized for your sacrifices. You've provided love and care to Lucas and Sophia in a way that Vanessa could not. Vanessa, tears welling in her eyes, spoke softly. Lydia, I've been a fool. I thought that success was everything, but I see now that family is what truly matters. I can't take back the years, but I want to start over. This is just one step. Lucas, who had been silently watching the exchange, finally found his voice. Aunt Lydia, please listen. We love you. We know what you've done for us. The money doesn't change how we feel about you, but it does show that you matter to our family. You're not just a caregiver. You're our family. Sophia chimed in, her voice breaking with emotion. You deserve so much more than what you've gotten. I'm so sorry for everything. I want to be better for you, and I hope this can help. Lydia's heart softened as she looked between the two young adults she had raised. Their genuine love and understanding pierced through her anger, but the pain of the past still lingered heavily on her shoulders. I just wanted to be seen, to be valued. I didn't need money to know that. I needed my sister. Mr. Thompson cleared his throat, sensing the emotional weight in the room. The important thing is that this is a chance for healing. There's also a clause in the will that allows for ongoing support to ensure you're included in family decisions moving forward. Vanessa wants to create an opportunity for a new beginning. The room was filled with a heavy silence, each person processing the implications of the lawyer's words. Vanessa took a step closer to Lydia, her voice trembling. I want to make it right, Lydia. I want you back in my life, not just as the caretaker of my children, but as my sister, my friend. I promise to do better. Lydia, torn between her old wounds and the flicker of hope ignited by her niece and nephew's words, finally took a deep breath. I don't know if I can trust you yet, Vanessa. It's going to take time. You can't just wave a wand and expect everything to be okay. I know, Vanessa replied, her voice filled with sincerity. But I'm willing to do whatever it takes. I want to earn your trust back. I want to make sure you know how much you mean to us. Lucas and Sophia stepped forward, their expressions earnest. We'll be here every step of the way, Aunt Lydia, said Lucas. We want you to be a part of our lives, not just on special occasions, but always. The tension in the room began to lift as Lydia absorbed their words. The money was still a shock, but it felt like the least important piece of this puzzle. What mattered more was the opportunity for reconciliation, for building something new from the ruins of their past. As the room began to fill with murmurs of disbelief and acceptance, Lydia felt a warmth spread through her, a sense of belonging she had craved for so long. All right, she finally said, her voice steady. If you really mean it, I'm willing to try. But this has to be real. No more pretending. Mr. Thompson smiled, relieved to see the sisters beginning to bridge the gap. That's all anyone can ask for, Lydia. And I believe you'll find that your bond can be even stronger than before. With that, the atmosphere shifted from one of tension to a tentative hopefulness. The guests, who had been witnesses to an emotional roller coaster, began to clap, the sound building into a wave of support. Lydia felt the warmth of their applause enveloping her, and for the first time in years, she felt seen. As the celebration resumed, Lydia found herself surrounded by her niece and nephew, who were filled with a renewed sense of purpose. She realized that while the past could not be changed, the future was still unwritten. And perhaps, just perhaps, this unexpected twist could lead to the family she had always longed for. The night continued with laughter and joy, and Lydia dared to hope that this could be the beginning of a new chapter. The real legacy of love was not measured in money, but in the moments shared, the connections rebuilt, and the promise of a family that, against all odds, was finally coming together.